the Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board. This is a video teleconference meeting. And with that, I'd like to ask the Secretary to call the roll.
Member DeLong?
Here.
Member Cuban?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell?
Here.
We have a quorum to do business. First item is consider approval of the minutes for December 17th, 2021 special board meeting. Everybody should have a copy of the minutes. Are there any changes, corrections? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 2.2, consider approval of the minutes for January 10th, 2022 special board meeting. Everybody should have a copy of those. Does anybody have any changes or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 I make a
Those opposed?
Need a motion first. Need a motion.
Okay, Nina, do we have a motion to approve?
You got it.
Do
Motion.
we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Item number 3, financial statements, Mr. Denton, for the period ending 12/31/21.
Yes, sir. The Frankfurt Plant Boards has a fiscal year end of June 30. So the financial statements before you tonight through December 31st, 2021 represents halfway through the 22 fiscal year. As you remember, when we set this budget, one of the big stories for this year was the amount of investment the plant board was putting back into capital projects. To put it in perspective and to our customer owners that might be watching, we have around $100 million in total revenue, and the plant board was looking to invest about 30% of that, $30 million back into projects that would help continue to provide reliable services for our customers. So one of the big stories through the first half of the year, the plant board has spent 34% of that budget through the first 6 months. So that's put that amount right at $10.3 million out of 30.7. On page 32 of your board packet, at the bottom there's a chart that shows where we are on the status of our 3 largest projects, our water reservoir, the smart meters, electric and water smart meters that are now being connected to customers' premises, and also our next band fiber to the home project as well. Those 3 projects are about half of that annual investment. So that's an update for those capital projects through the first 6 months. Another is with the COVID situation and our amount of past dues. That was quite a ride we had, suspending service disconnections, and saw an increase in our past due bills, the largest we'd ever seen, up to $3.2 million back in October of 2020. But we've worked that number down by setting up payment arrangements with our customers. You can see as we've on page 34, the current through December 21st, you can see where we are there at just over $1 million in total past due bills. I know we'll have Cassie giving us an update with customer service to discuss that a little further. So those are 2 of the big updates the first 6 months of the period. You can see that looking at our financials, I believe it's on page 45, we're just under budget on revenue, and we are about $2.5 million below budget for the year on expenses. We will have a significant unfunded liability adjustment in June, so I expect those budget actuals on our expenses to tighten up a little bit. I'd be glad to answer any additional questions or any other analysis you'd like, but that's where we sit through 12/31.
Does anyone have any questions of David? How are we doing, David, on the EBB? How timely is the federal reimbursement coming in?
Yeah, there's a mechanism set up for the billing that we submit and the reimbursement, and that's working as planned. I believe I just talked with Cassie. She has an update that we have around 527 customers that are on that program. So it's working as intended, which there is a change coming in this new calendar year that we'll be updating you on as we get into that process. But everything's working as it should for now.
Okay, Mr. Snyder?
Yeah, John. Hey, David. Looking at the payroll budget actual to the actual 6 months to the entire year budget, we're a little over 50% 6 months in. I know we had a couple of instances where we've got a couple of longtime employees retiring, and I think people are kind of shadowing them or working alongside them. Is that a concern, or being over that 50% amount halfway through the year, or not?
I believe we're going to be probably over our payroll budget. If we continue to track like this, as you've pointed out, I believe we could be above our payroll budget for the year. I don't think as a company, when you look at our financials, I believe as a whole, when you consider all expenses, I believe we're going to be under our total expense budget. All the changes that we've had in payroll have been well covered, I think, with the board, and any changes we had just last month with a one-time inflation adjustment have been kind of highlighted. So I think we're going to be over for the year is my estimate, but as a company, I believe we're prepared for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then we'll be getting, I assume we'll be getting, for the work we've been doing, the crews down in Mayfield and in Western Kentucky, we'll be getting reimbursement. That'll be coming in as additional revenue a little later in the year, right?
Yes, sir. That we get reimbursed for the labor and equipment and all and different expenses. So the good work that men and women doing in West Kentucky will get reimbursed and technically go against the expense budget as a reduction.
Okay. Any further questions for David? Okay. With that, we need to accept the financials. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of accepting the financials, vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials are accepted. The next one, and everybody should have got a late breaking email from Hans this afternoon. The next one is considering approved renewal of the FPB insurance policies. And I think everybody's probably noticed we're looking at some pretty substantial increases. And Hans was asked to go back and along with Charlie Hamilton to look and see if there are some different increments that would still give us adequate coverage and save us some money on premium. So with that, Hans, you want me to turn it over to you and Charlie?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a good summary. I'll start off with what we had initially had in the board package. We presented two options for the board to consider for renewal this year. It's kind of some cost savings. Option A there, we renew everything at the current levels, and that's a pretty good increase, about a 24% increase over last year's. And then also we could renew the same coverages, of course, except we drop, and we have an excess right now, cyber coverage and excess directors and officers coverage. Recall we secured that last February. Those were the two main drivers of the cost this year. The cyber and the D&O were what was really driving those increases. Option B there, that would keep the increase, keeps it down, still a pretty good jump to about a 9% increase. And then Mr. Cubine just mentioned, just hot off the presses there, I sent a recent email on some supplemental coverage levels that I have here. Let me see if I can, I've got my Word document here. Let me see if I can try and share my screen.
I just mentioned, Charlie, from what I understand, what we bid, or you all contacted 47 different providers, and this is pretty much going on. It's not because of anything claimed we've done. It's going on industry-wide. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's the marketplace. The marketplace is driving this, particularly the cyber, as you can see, because that's a huge increase. And you would not believe, and how many people are getting impacted. The insurance companies are just basically raising cyber between 100 to 300% from last year. Plus,
what does cyber actually cover, Charlie?
It covers somebody breaking into your system, stealing your data, wrecking your system is another thing. Actually, property coverage where they could come in and do that. Ransomware is a big thing. That's probably the hottest thing right now, where they block everything and you have to pay them in order for them to release the information back to you. Ransomware is probably the hottest thing right now.
Okay.
I think I've got option C up there on the screen that just came in. It should say a handout called supplemental coverage levels. If I've been successful in trying to share this information I sent out. But basically, this is kind of like what we did last year when the board was kind of weighing its D&O coverage. Here's some information on various limits that we could get. You could have an extra $2.5 million in cyber, which would give you a total of 7.5 as opposed to 10 for an extra $47,000. And then below that, we have some additional amounts that the board, for an additional 1 million, which would give you a total of 6 million in cyber. That would be an additional $22,000. And the same is same sort of framework for your excess directors and officers coverage. You have a $2.5 million limit, which would give you the 7.5, sort of splitting the difference for the $26,000. And then below that, we have options for 1, 2, 3, and 4 million for the board's consideration. And no action is required on those limits tonight. The board can consider is sort of balance, just what is everyone comfortable with the risk versus the cost. And we could come back potentially next month like we did with the D&O last year and kind of consider what the board would like. But of course we do want to renew some basic level this evening. So I'll open it up to any questions.
And one other question, Charlie, before we get into it. Based on what you're seeing, do you think it's wise to reduce the cyber coverage at this point?
That's kind of a pointed question. If I said yes and you have a claim, then my name's Mud. I don't think so. The problem you have is that, as somebody told me years ago, like how high limits should you have, and that's how high is the sky. But I think the honest answer is as much as you can afford is the best answer. There's no way to know in the future what you can get sued for. So you should, in my opinion, buy as much as you can afford. And it is really a tough situation right now. The insurance companies, there's a lot of them just backed off altogether. I had one account that I've had has not had a cyber claim at all. They had a $5 million limit, and the company would only provide a $1 million limit on the renewal, and it was almost as much they paid for 5 the year before. So it's a tough marketplace, and the reason for it is the experience the companies are having on the losses. You guys have been great, and thank goodness, knock on wood. If it happens, it could cripple you.
And if we kept
Thank the IT director too, who I've spent a lot of time and got a lot of information from. He was extremely helpful and got back to me right away, because the underwriters are just nosy as the dickens and really wanting detailed information on your operations, and he was great in providing that to them.
If we kept everything the way it is now, we'd be looking at about a $240,000 increase.
That's correct, and the bulk of that, almost half that's the cyber.
Okay, open it up to everybody. What do y'all want to do?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Let me just, Charlie, thanks for bringing this. There are never any good options. I can only imagine what everybody's homeowners insurance and everything else is going to be when it comes time to renewal for next year. Especially with what went on with the city of Frankfurt, them getting, hit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is the best time for us to renew or to cut back on our cyber protection. Mm-hmm. I know it costs a lot of money, but it's the cost of doing business as far as I'm concerned. And, if we were to get hit by that after a reduction, we have so much critical infrastructure. You know, I'm almost of a mind to bite the bullet. I don't know what the other members think.
What do you think, John, about the directors, the E&O?
You know, I don't think you know, if we want to reduce that a little bit, that's fine. I don't see where that's as much of a, you know, I don't think that's as much of a hit, but honestly, that's a really small part of this. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, if we're gonna go full boat to the 10 million and keep the 10 million on the cyber, you know, I'd almost might as well keep the D&O at 10 million as well and make it consistent. You know, I just, you know, if you want to reduce it a little bit, but I just don't think that's going to save us a whole bunch of money.
Steve?
Well, I agree with John. I don't think we should do anything to the cyber money. That's just playing with fire. And I also agree with the board liability coverage. I mean, you know, until litigation, you don't think it can happen, but it can happen.
Yeah.
And that's a relatively small amount of money. What potentially we all could face.
Catherine?
Well, I think we gave all this a lot of consideration last year. And so I don't know that we would analyze it any differently right now. Obviously, it would be helpful if someone were to tell us like what it would do to our budget.
Mr. Denton, that's your clue, sir.
I think similar to what Mr. Snyder said. I mean, it's the cost of doing business. We have 100 million decisions with $100 million in revenue. And I think it's just one of those things, you just factor it in and it just contributes to what our rates need to cover.
Would this go into effect, Charlie or Hans, when would these new premiums come due? New fiscal year or in this fiscal year?
This fiscal year, February the 5th to be exact.
So about of that increase, so roughly a little less than half will come due of the increase will come due this year.
That is correct.
John, if you don't mind asking David, what did we have in the budget this year for this item?
We were right at $1 million for this
Okay.
overall policy and workers' comp.
Okay.
And workers' comp?
Correct, and workers' comp. We pay all this up front. We consider it a prepaid asset and then expense it month over month as the term rolls off. So I think it's just one of those things. We will make it part of the budget, and I don't think it will require a budget amendment for this last 6 months of this current year 22, but we will have those discussions as we develop 23. It'll be just part of the overall revenue requirements of the business.
And I assume Hans or David or Charlie, you all talked to Casey, and does Casey feel it's prudent to keep the higher cyber coverage?
That discussion, too busy interrogating him for the underwriters, getting all the information about your current security and privacy situations you're doing. So the cost never came up, the cost at the time when I was talking to him. I might clarify one statement on the workers' comp. That is a July 1 renewal, so it goes into your next fiscal year. You've already paid the current one.
Okay. So for the next, going back to Catherine's question, so we'll have part of it this year, and then basically for the next year budget, we'll be looking at budgeting that full extra amount for the full 12 months. Is that correct? How long are these policy periods for, Charlie?
Each of them are for a year, except the pollution or the environmental liability that you have. That's actually a 3-year policy. Premium on that, it's actually a 3-year prepaid premium.
And so that locks down though for 3.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay, Jason?
Well, it sounds like you guys last year spent a lot of time talking through this, and Well, I'm a little new to the conversation, but it does sound like it's the cost of doing business. I guess I did have one question, and sorry, I'm a little under the weather, so numbers are kind of a little foggy right now. With the $10 million cyber coverage, that's per incident, I assume, like a normal insurance policy?
It is, plus it's an aggregate limit too. So that's actually that's the limit and the aggregate limit. And the umbrella works the same on large casualty and liability. It's not like they'd pay a $10 million claim and next month pay another $10 million claim. That's an aggregate limit for any 1 year.
That's the cap. Okay, I got it. Okay, well, I think everybody's made really good points, and this is just the cost of doing business, so it is what it is.
Well, this year, see, Jason, we paid for it because we used our surplus sales money, right? Right, David?
Yes,
Have we
sir.
spent that yet?
A few times.
Do we still have some of that?
I think it's gone.
It's gone.
That's a recurring revenue, though.
It's kind of like a fund transfer, you know, Steve? Well, Mr. Snyder, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to, renew the FPB insurance policies as discussed by Mr. Hamilton at the limits, keeping the $10 million limit for both the D&O and the cyber protection, and as otherwise spelled out in board materials.
So we'll be voting on keeping option A.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion option A is approved. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you. Thank the members of the board. We worked hard to try to keep you from paying any more.
Thanks, Charlie.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Next one is number 5. Any public comments, Kathy?
No, sir, we have no public comments and no website comments either.
Okay. Number 6, departmental reports. Vint, you want to handle them?
Yes, sir. We'll start with the telecom report. That's on page 185 through 188. You'll notice that trouble call was down versus the same time last year. And they had 8 outages for December. 3 of them were from the storms on December the 6th, and 3 were from the storm on December the 11th. And the remaining were things like tree damage and stuff. I will ask Adam if he would give us an update on next ban right now.
Good afternoon. The overhead construction has been complete in Lions Drive, the Franklin Heights area. We've actually begun construction in what we call Node 36, which is the Crestwood subdivision, Rolling Acres, Hickory Drive, Winding Way, also Shinkle Lane, the Colony, and Landings Drive. So right now, the underground crews are finishing up on Louisville Road out there, and we are preparing to pull fiber in Ridgeview and Arnold Ridge subdivisions. So hopefully we can get those activated and start taking orders there. Other than that, the installation contractors are on site. They came on last week, and we're starting to get those scheduled in to kind of help ease the workload and to better prepare for the fiber to the home installs, and being short-staffed right now. Is there any questions?
When you say you're short-staffed, how are you doing at filling your vacancies?
We've had 1 round of interview, and we had 1 candidate that we made an offer to, or actually 2, and 1 turned us down, and I think we got the other one doing the background work now. So the job is still out there on the street, and like I said, we have 3 more to fill. So,
Do you think, is it just not enough? What do you think our problem is with turning it down or not being able to get the applicants? Is it salary or competition or?
yeah, I think it's a myriad of all things. I think the pool is small, and I'm definitely sure that salary has a little bit to do with it, because there's a lot of places offering bonuses and things of that nature. The one, that's some of the things we've talked about internally, is maybe trying to get less qualified. I shouldn't say less qualified in the area of telecom, and doing more in-house training to bring people on, younger, newer to the workforce. So we're still working to see what we get. So I don't know at this point.
Do you hear anything from other, just word on the street from other companies, or in terms of, other companies that do cable work, are they having trouble recruiting? Are they filling their spots, or?
A lot of them have went to contract labor, so I'm sure there is, but they do pretty much what we're doing and supplementing everything with contract labor. So as far as, word of mouth from somebody else, not at this point, but I know that's what a lot of people do is supplement it with contract labor.
And how's that compare to our cost when we hire contractors compared to if they were our own employees? When you count the whole thing, salary, fringe, everything.
Off the top of my head, I think it'd be a little. I think it's not a bad thing. I mean, we probably come out a little better, but then you have limitations on what you can do with contract labor.
Right.
I mean, right now they're primarily doing installs. They're not doing trouble call. There's a lot of things that they don't do that. So, and then you have that. A lot of the contract labor is from out of town. So you don't have that local feel as much. So I don't know. We went back and forth, trying to figure out, do we want to rehire everybody? Do you want to up the contract labor force and things of that nature? So we're just trying to feel our way through right now to see what's out there and what we're getting.
Any questions for Adam? Okay,
Thank
Ben?
you.
Okay, I'll continue on with the electric report. That's on pages 193 through 196 of your board package. The electric crews are currently working down on 2nd Street on the Tiger Grant. They're also doing system maintenance, changing out poles, doing those kind of things. You notice in the reports, we had a SAIDI number of 26.8. And our crews that have been in Mayfield for about 2 weeks, they got back on Friday. And we will be in discussions with Mayfield and likely know by the end of this week whether or not we will be requested again in the short term. They have a long way to go down there, obviously, to get their system back operational. So we'll see how that is. I think Kathy later on is going to do a little bit of a conversation and recognize, talk about the employees that went down there. So I will wait for her on that. And I'll move to the AMI report. And Travis McCullough, would you give the AMI report, please?
Sure, be happy to. Current AMI installations were at a little over 4,000 for electric and a little over 2,600 for water. That puts us right around the 20% mark for each line of business. Installation's going pretty well. We're just mostly working around the weather at this point, cold temperatures, snow, those types of things. Supply chain shortages are still there a little bit, but mostly manageable. And be happy to answer any questions.
Travis.
Yeah.
Listen, I got a flyer from us in the mail at the house. Where does that fall? Where does that mean for folks to get that in the mail? How far out are we? When are we going to be looking to get? When are you going to get to us? Is that a kind of a demarcation of when we find out where we are in the system?
We've been mailing those quarterly, so we project typically 3 months out. So that's a pretty good window. Within the next 3 months, we'll be visiting your house. Yep.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. No problem.
Any other questions for Travis? Oh, I wanted to ask Ben, during the Tiger Grant, I know 2nd Street School was interested in us relocating some of the power stuff on their property. Did anything ever happen there, or is that still the way it was, or?
No, it's still the way it was. I think the cost was
prohibitive
there. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. What's next?
I will continue with the SEPA report, pages 197 through 199. You'll notice for the month of November, we cleared $94,431,000. So that puts us for the calendar year through November at 1.387 million. For the fiscal year, I think for the fiscal year, we budgeted the last couple of years about 830,000. So we are doing considerably over there. This is our best year. If you look on 199, I think this is the best year we have realized so far. So that is working well for us. I will continue on if there are no more questions with the water report on pages 203 to 205 in your board package. The construction crews are about 90% complete with the 30-inch feed into the rear of the reservoir, so they're working on that right now, but almost complete with that part. Construction crews are also installing a new fire line and domestic service for a customer on Democratic Drive, and crews have completed the water main relocation for a new customer development and installed a new domestic service. And I would ask David Billings if he could give us a reservoir update and report.
Yes, sir. Good evening. We had a construction progress meeting about a week ago on January the 10th. We have received and approved our 8th payment request, representing about 75% of the contract amount. Tank construction is mainly complete, pending an inspection and with the engineer and developing a punch list for minor items. Upcoming work will be the 12-inch drain out front and the 24-inch overflow piping, beginning backfilling around the tank and beginning excavation for the retaining wall. We will be developing a timetable for work to be performed on the 36-inch feet out front once our materials have been delivered. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are we pretty much right on schedule, David, or?
Probably a little bit behind schedule. And we got to get, they've got to get some work done before we can get our work done. So that's all going to impact the schedule.
Yeah. I mean, it's impressive what they've gotten done. I mean, just watching that whole thing go up it's amazing.
Yes, it is.
Does anybody have any questions for David? And go over again, David, exactly when, at what point, time frame wise, do we actually transition over to the new tank?
It'll be at the end of the project after, of course, we've got to get our work done. And there was not a lot of, there needs to be some time probably added to the contract for us to get our work done out front. So that will be something that will be coming forward later on down the road. We're anticipating the delay of the north basin being demolished, as well as the paving and the landscaping. So after all that is done and the north basin is taken out of service, then we'll be transitioning over to the new reservoir.
Okay. Any questions for David? Okay, Vin.
Mr. Chairman, we'll continue on then. The water treatment plant report is on page 207. In the month of December, the treatment plant treated 211.9 million gallons for an average of 6.83 million gallons per day. We had 4.6 inches of rain that was recorded in the area, which resulted in an average flow at lock and dam number 4 of 9,400 CFS. Just for the calendar year of 2021, we treated 2.612 billion gallons of water, and that's an average of 7.16 million gallons a day. So that's with about 10 or 11 people up there, they treated 2.6 billion gallons of water in a year. So they do quite a bit of good work up there. We appreciate all they do. I think they're a group of people that we don't think about unless you didn't have water, and then they would be ultra important. You would realize it. So anyway, our annual daily average continues to be below averages that were prior to COVID by roughly 1 million gallons a day. And that's kind of interesting. But so that was all I had on the water treatment plant report. If you all don't have any questions on that, I will turn it over to Cassie to continue the departmental report.
Any questions on the water treatment? Okay, Ms. Estel.
Good evening, members of the board. The customer service reports are on pages 189 to 192. Those detail for the month of December the types of interactions that our service team had with our customers and what their needs were throughout the month. For the EBB program, David touched on that earlier. We're at 527 applicants right now, and there are changes coming in March, and we continue to learn more about that program. Mid-January, more information is coming to us, so we'll pass that along to the board as well as our community and public as we get that information. With the payment plans that we had at the height of COVID, we were at 4,800 accounts approximately that needed assistance with paying their bills, and those are down to 460 actively still with a payment plan on hold. And then the Kentucky Housing Healthy at Home Fund has to date, they're at $707,000 approximately, with 454 customers that they've helped with that program. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you all have.
What's happening right now with LIHEAP in terms of people who signed up or eligible? When does that money, does that money come to us, or does it come up front or as they get their bills, or how does that work?
The LIHEAP program signups are typically in November, and then the funds run through March until they get other funding for different programs. We get weekly commitments from them and payments towards those accounts from them.
Okay.
So a customer just initially they had to sign up in November and December on their alphabet date. Now it's on an as needed basis. They would contact Bluegrass Community Action if they were in need. They would set up an appointment with them. And speaking to some customers today, they indicated that those appointments are about a week out right now through Bluegrass Community Action, but they are still accepting them. And then they provide a copy of any arrears bill they have, as well as their qualifying documents for their finances. And then Bluegrass makes a decision based on the LIHEAP rules that are in place for them.
Any questions for Cassie? Okay. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you and your whole team for what you all do.
One thing I'd like to note that I forgot, Mr. Cubine, and thank you for that. I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off. Is I forgot to say, and I just want to thank our team as well. We had about 4,700 phone calls in the month of December, and a lot of people out with sickness and different things. And our average wait time was 36 seconds or less. And so they're really trying to hit that mark and be as efficient as they can with meeting the customer need and helping them in whatever they need help with.
And you're still working with Catherine on some options. I know you were trying to assemble some data and what historical we had and so forth.
Yes, sir. Our plan is to hopefully get a meeting with Ms. Dutton Mitchell as well as staff and just kind of get what the board's looking for that will be most beneficial for the information that they would like to see for the service team. A lot of our tracking did not become electronic until around mid-2018. So we don't necessarily have a lot of long historical data for certain things, but for other things, we definitely have that information. So,
okay.
Cassie, I appreciate your email earlier today, and I definitely don't. I think we've got good data points. We've worked on those, I don't know, a year or so ago. So I'm not looking to capture any additional data, but just to have some handy comparisons. And I think just even adding, and maybe you did that on this report, 20 in the middle for the third section, you added 2020 data, which is helpful just to compare to 2021.
Yes, ma'am. We added that on that curbside report since it's our second year into that. And we are hitting the 1 year mark of these additional reports. So we could compare at least year over year on each of these if that would start to be beneficial since they were new reports.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Okay. Ben?
David, do you have who's next?
We haven't done KYMEA and we haven't done safety.
I saw Kim on there. Kim, do you want to do safety?
Sure. We had no OSHA reportables and no vehicle accidents for December. So
that's good.
Kim,
I'd like to make a comment about,
yeah.
I'd like to make a comment about safety if I could. I'd like to ask the board to join me in congratulating her on her upcoming retirement. This will be her last board meeting this evening. So congratulations to Kim on a great career. She was hired as the plant board's very first safety director and has spent her career here building an award-winning program from the ground up, literally. You know, as evidenced by the fact she's won the KYMEA Destiny Award more times than you can count. So I've enjoyed working with her personally and appreciate her efforts very much and wish her well on her future endeavors. And I'd update the board a little bit. We've JC Lyons, I know you've seen his name on some of the COVID emails flying around. He was selected as the new safety director, and he's got some big shoes to fill.
Yes, he does.
But we think he'll do a fantastic job and build on the great program that Kim has in place. JC's been here about 4 years so far, and he's been a great resource for everybody here. and I look forward to working with him too. So thank Kim and thank JC, and really appreciate everybody. So we'll see if we can't keep the report the same going forward. Nothing to report. That's what we want to hear from safety. So thanks.
Do we know anybody out the retirement system that can block this?
I've been trying to. I'm going to seek an injunction from
Yes.
federal court here in the Sixth Circuit here to stop Kim from leaving. So she doesn't know that yet, but she'll get served here later on tonight. So,
Well, she'll know on the 15th when no check comes in her account that her retirement didn't process. Kim,
Indeed.
thank you for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure. I have enjoyed my time here, and I'll miss it. That's for sure. So thank you for the opportunity. All the men and women of the plant board, they're just a real jewel in this community, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I appreciate the opportunity to have provided a living, and my kids are happy that they got to go to college and all the things that went along with a nice, steady career. So I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are you going to, Kim, before you leave, are you going to tell us where that extra premium money was? No?
I think you all have made use of that, and it didn't, and I don't think it went to me.
Ms. Hubine, this is
Yes, sir.
Gary. For the KYMEA, we didn't have a board meeting yet between the last one, this one. So I really don't have a much new report on the KYMEA. We just had a lot of a committee meeting, like a budget committee, prepare for next year. One thing I like to highlight a little bit regard to the safety and also our current COVID impact our operation. One of the board member asked me to update. I would say, since beginning, the follow your direction, we believe one of the most important is to protect our employee safety and also our customer. So we put in multiple policy in place, make sure we hope we have no internal transmission. I do want to report to the board, until now, we do have employee actually test positive, or in the process, they have to stay 5 days. But we don't have a single case is have an employee being affected by another coworker and also from the customer. I need to knock the wood, and I also need Kim help me. If I'm wrong, I want to definitely seek and correct me on that. And I think Kim can go more detail about all the procedure policy we are put in place. But most is we follow the CDC guideline. We take that very, very seriously. I'm definitely ready. Either me, Hans, or Kim, or Michelle, we can go very detailed if you have a more question or you have a concern about it.
While we're on it right now, why don't we go on and jump to, while we're talking about it, and Hans, you or Kim, I know Catherine had followed up on it, and why don't you go on and discuss item 9.1 real quick?
Yes, sir. Very, very briefly, the stays, all of them have been held to be, unconstitutional. Pretty much is what the courts have said. It kind of goes back to the certain powers are reserved to the states, and the public health being one of them. And the courts have said that you can't use these federal tools, the federal contractor rules that govern federal procurements, or OSHA's rules to regulate the public health. Is sort of the gist of all of those opinions. But of course, even though that those opinions say that those rules aren't in place, you still have to do something to mitigate the spread of it. So you just try to do from everything that's coming out about Omicron, it's just social distancing and wearing a mask are about the only 2 steps I've read so far that are effective. The vaccines, I personally know two people that have been vaccinated and boosted and still picked up the Omicron. So it's just old-fashioned laying low and hoping you don't get sick seems to be the solution for Omicron. but I'll turn it over to Nichelle or Kim or JC, and if they have any comments.
Sure, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Yeah.
Just to add, like I said, to Hans and Dr. Zing's statements, we've of course been following the updated guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and the Kentucky Department of Health. Hard to believe we're coming into 2 years now. Back in May of 2020, when the governor's office required that employers put in place a healthy at work protocol, we of course have had that in place, and it's been updated. I just checked of 6 times, keeping up with the latest guidance. Back in September, and of course at our update, we're still, of course, encouraging our employees to seek vaccinations and helping to assist and facilitate those as possible at like larger test sites and community events if possible. We're, of course, following the CDC quarantine guidelines based on vaccination status. Our great partner at HealthWorks has been excellent in providing on-site testing, at their site testing, and very, very, very acceptable for us to send an employee up there at a moment's notice if necessary. We've also got our signage placed at our common break areas, our time clocks, encouraging social distancing. Our support services department, a very big shout out to them, and the custodial staff have been excellent at providing our disinfection and cleaning once throughout the day. Of course, you always see them cleaning and doing an awesome job in the procurement of the materials for that. Sorry, sir, go ahead. But that's just a brief summary of our Healthy at Work protocol. I'll be happy to share or answer any questions. Of course, our mask use, and we really pushing on the social distancing. That's going to be our best friend that we have found, because it, of course, limits our quarantine times and so forth.
3 things real quick. First, JC, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I know the president, beginning tomorrow, people can start ordering their 4 tests for every household?
Yes, sir. Actually, they're accepting pre-orders today. I just checked into it this afternoon. Each household should be able to receive up to 4 rapid tests. They're supposed to be shipped out, I believe, in like a 7 to 12 day period. Actually, I plan on sending some information out about that. It was scheduled to go online tomorrow. But from the news and information I found, they're actually accepting orders today.
And then, Nichelle, there was the president, I know, signed an order last week that if employees got tested, they could submit the bill to their insurers.
Yes.
Did that affect us, or?
I'm still following up with MIP and check on that. But yes, I'm aware of the bill.
Okay. Catherine, I know you had some interest in this. Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to thank all the staff. I appreciate the update and just the due diligence that management and then every employee has taken to mitigate the risk, and proof is kind of in the pudding. And the best you can hope for is no transmission between employees and no transmission to or from customers. And so, yeah, knock on wood. But just the fact that you all continually are updating the Healthy at Work protocols and following the CDC guidelines. I know it's been a moving target. So I appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
Any other board members have any questions on this? Comments? Okay. Next is the NOC.
Good evening. The NOC report is on page 209 and 210 of your handout. You'll notice in the month of December, the NOC handled 1,922 phone calls, and we had completed 525 utility locates. If you'll skip to the next page, I included a second attachment this month. That's page 210 in your packet. And it's just a annual summary from last year, a 2021 annual summary. This gives you a snapshot of the locates last year. A total of 8,252 locates across the 3 utilities for a total of 24,756. So another quite busy year. And just under that, for the knock, kind of did the same thing. Phone calls by month. It looks like the knock staff handled 28,733 phone calls last year. So similar to the locates, we had busy months and down months, but still pretty busy in general.
Are you still fully staffed, Darren?
Yeah, the knock is fully staffed and our locators are fully staffed as well. I have a couple out with illness like everyone else, but on a good day, we're fully staffed. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Darren? I think, does that cover all the department reports, Ben?
Yes, sir. That covers them all.
Okay. If it's all right with everyone, we'll move on to item 7.1. Consider award of bid invitation number 1737 for one power transformer to Howard Power Solutions in the amount of $636,000. Who's handling?
That's me, Mr. Yvonne. Sorry for the delay there.
Well, that's okay.
As you said, item 7.1 is a bid award for one power transformer to Howard Power Solutions in the amount of $636,000. Staff prepared a bid invitation and sent it out to potential vendors. We evaluated all the responses and recommend award to Howard Power Solutions. The bids are evaluated on a total cost of ownership formula that factors in rates, warranties, and a couple other factors there. This is our first experience with Howard on a substation class transformer, but we did do some customer references and all those came back pretty well. So we're confident in this one. This will be part of the T54 project, which is in the current electric budget. There's $2,328,000 in the budget for this. Happy to answer any questions.
So of this amount, is this about what you thought the transformer would cost?
It is. They're up a little bit, like most things we're seeing, but we're still within budget at this price for the overall project.
And I see on the thing where it takes 24 weeks to get this.
It does, and that was much better than most of their competitors. So we did pretty well on that. That'll fit well in the overall project schedule. We've got some on-site work to do in advance, so should factor in well with the overall project.
How's this? Just curious. When I did some work in Lexington, I know like when we had to order fire trucks, things like that, we had to pay 100% up front when we ordered. How do these things work? Do you pay 100% when you order, or do you pay part now or when they're delivered? How does that work on big purchases like this?
Yeah, from what I recall, the transformers are 3 payments. You pay a little bit up front when you submit the PO. You get the approval drawing set, you pay another chunk, and then they'll do the final testing and you pay that last portion. So it's broken up over, I think it's typically 3 payments.
Okay. I'm looking for a little money for David Dent. I'm trying to do some fundraising here for him.
I don't think all the 636 will go out the door necessarily this fiscal year, but it'll be pretty close on this one.
Just trying to help David out, you know.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions of Travis?
John, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Travis, you mentioned that you did a total price calculation, and I saw where this bidder did have a lot lower delivery time. Was delivery time a factor in the total cost, or was it something that was evaluated separately?
It was not part of that total cost of ownership formula. That just happened to work in our favor, that they were both lowest bid and best delivery time. The cost of ownership looks at the losses, which I think they may or may not be listed on the tab sheet. But anyway,
they are.
And we assign a dollar amount. So the higher the losses, the more the vendor gets penalized.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Travis? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Here we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Purchase is approved. Thanks, Travis. Next one, Harvey. Action item, consider approving public hearing notice covering increasing rate for cable network pass-through fee increasing rate for bulk cable 1, bulk cable 2, and update cable 10 programming duplication policy. Mr. Couch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The first two items is public hearing are related to cable rates, and the final item is basically changing the policy and how we distribute our cable 10 programming to our customers. So the cable rates, as always, are direct pass-throughs of our increased programming costs of the networks on classic cable, and it's not a result of any one single agreement. You know, each of the major media companies owns a piece of it. Staff recommends the board approve a public notice for the purpose of conducting a public hearing at the next meeting of the Frankfurt Plant Board. The first piece is the cable network pass-through fee, and this notice proposes to increase that from $59.66 a month to $60.19 a month, and this will be effective May 1st, 2021, and is just under 1% increase. So this is the lowest increase we've had in quite some time. So
that's about what, about 53 cents a month?
Yes, sir. The customer charge will remain unchanged. That's basically the piece of the bill that stays in Frankfurt at $12.79 a month. And then the second piece is increasing the rate for bulk cable 1 and bulk cable 2. Bulk cable 1 is hotels and dormitories, and that'll go from $14.80 a month to $15.25 a month. And then bulk cable 2, which is generally office complexes, would go from $25.81 per month to $26.60 per month. And those both are effective May 1st, 2021. And then finally, the Cable 10 program duplication policy. Basically, as technology has changed, the folks at Cable 10 have begun to archive the local programming as digital files. It's more reliable as far as the long-term storage of the programming, and the ability to have backups offsite as well. So they have DVDs of the stuff from prior to July 1, and so that will continue to be available. But basically, programs recorded after July 1st, 2021, will be available as digital files only, and that would be on a thumb drive or some other digital delivery mechanism. So not changing the rate of it's still $20. That's what it was before. Basically just defining what the delivery mechanism is and the tariff for that. So happy to answer any questions you have on this item.
Any questions of Harvey on this? And Harvey, do we need to have the public hearing before the February meeting, or can it be as part of the February meeting?
The plan was to have it at the regular meeting and then ask you guys to approve it at the March meeting.
Steve?
Yeah, I have a question about on the charts. I guess it's page 213 and 215, 213, 215. And I'm not asking to raise any rates here, but it looks to me, if I'm reading this correctly, that while the percentage of what actually the expenses Frankfurt is going down, maybe I'm asking it wrong. Wait a second.
So the chart.
Here's the question, and I may be looking at it totally backwards. Are we holding our amount that we get at a steady amount of the rate that comes in, even though our expenses are probably going up like everyone else's?
Yes, sir. So if I'll see if I can share this just so that we can all be sure to. So is this is what you're talking about?
Yeah, I was looking at that. I'm not sure if I read it right though. First look.
So the green line here, the one that is basically flat, and this is going back for the last 19 years. This is the portion of the bill that is being kept by the plant board. This is our operational expense for cable TV. The orange line is the part that we pay for programming, and then the blue line is the bill. The customer, the rate. So yes, so you are absolutely correct in that what we have been taking in is Well, if you look back, it is $3 less today than it was in 2003 in raw dollars of the cable bill, while the expenses have gone from, you know, just under $10 to almost $85 a month. So you are correct. Yes.
Okay.
So the motion would be is just authorizing the public hearing so that it can be noticed for the February meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So does anyone have any other questions of Harvey about this? If not, we need a motion to authorize having a public hearing at the February regular meeting on these issues.
So
do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Motion's approved. Thanks, Harvey. Next one is bid invitation number 1742, HDPE conduit to the Galloway Group in the amount of $52,250. Jennifer Hellard.
Let me ask you, John, excuse me.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Back on the last one, did we have to do something, approve the duplication policy, any of that stuff? Is that all included within that motion?
Harvey?
Yes, sir. We were, because it's a tariff change, we were looking for a public hearing for that item as well.
So it's
Just
all
included it in the same public hearing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So all three items will be on the public hearing notice.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Jennifer?
Good evening. Staff prepared a bid for 2 different sizes of continuous roll conduit. This is normally kept in inventory. However, this bid was due to we're going to need a lot bigger quantity, mostly earmarked for fiber to the home that they have plans for, you know, in the next several months. So we sent the bid to 10 vendors directly. We advertised it as normal. We received 4 responses. The lowest bidder also had the lowest lead time, so that was great. And the tab sheet is on page 233 if you need to view that. So we recommend the Galloway Group because of the lead time and price.
Okay. Any questions of Jennifer on this? Have we used Galloway before?
We have used them they sell through NCTC and different, we've used them for different information.
Okay. Any questions of Jennifer? I'm sorry, John.
John, yeah, Jennifer, on your bid tab sheet, I think one of your subtotals is wrong because as I just added it up and everything else is right. Galloway Group's price on the unit bid tab for the 2-inch conduit at $110 a unit price. You have that as 45,000. It should be like 40,000 and change because that would be the 120 price. But the overall price of 52, I think, is still the correct price.
That looks like.
But I just want to make sure I was right reading it that way. Is that correct?
I can double check really quick here. That looks like what happened. Let's see.
Because that should be like 40,500, I think, something like that, or something.
One second. I can double check here. I've got.
Oh, that's fine.
Their copy. Just a second. Correct. It is the 110 unit price. So that total price should have been 41,250.
That's what I thought. Okay. No.
So 52,250.
That's still the right price. That's still the right total price. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much.
So Galloway is still the lowest price with
correct.
With the
best,
the
total was
correct.
The grand total is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If there are any other questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept award of bid invitation 1742 in the amount of $52,250 to the Galway Group.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? If not, contract to HDPE is approved. Next one is Nichelle. This is what you talked to us about last meeting.
Oh,
You vote on that. Need to vote.
Need to vote on
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry. Do we have a motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I got ahead of myself. I looked at Nichelle. She was all excited about going, right, Nichelle?
Right.
Yeah.
Good evening.
This is what you talked to us about last meeting about, we had a few positions that need to be reviewed and looked at.
Correct. Yes, sir. Good evening, board chair and members of the board. Recent promotions in the electric department have created some situations where tenured employees are paid less than the employees they are currently supervising. Staff asked the board to consider approving salary adjustments to 9 electric employees to resolve the situation. In addition to those salary adjustments, staff asked the board to consider reclassification of the assistant electric superintendent position from the current grade of 116 to a grade 117. Blair Johansson, our compensation consultant, recommends a grade 117 after reviewing the market and current duties and responsibilities for the assistant electric superintendent job description. Please see Blair's recommendation in the detailed pages. The new grade for the assistant electric superintendent will create a greater pay grade separation between this position and the reporting supervisor's positions. The 9 salary adjustments and the assistant electric superintendent reclassification will have a financial impact of approximately $30,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year 2022. The current fiscal year 2022 budget is able to absorb the $30,000 salary increase. Effective date for the 10 salary adjustments will be January 1st of 2022. Staff asked the board to consider approving 9 electric employee salary adjustments and a reclassification to the assistant electric superintendent position to address pay compensation, separation, and pay equity issues within the electric department.
And this came about after we made the salary adjustments for electric that were budgeted in the current year budget, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay. Do we have any questions of Nichelle about this or to Travis or Vin in terms of the need to do this?
Mr. Chair, I just have one question. In here, it says budgeted funds from anticipated overtime are available for these increases. But earlier we were told that we would be over our payroll budget. So can you kind of give a little?
Correct. So after speaking with, and I asked to revise my agenda item because after speaking with David Denton, he did inform me that electric was above for overtime. However, as he had mentioned and stated earlier, overall as a company, budget-wise, the budget could absorb these increases. So payroll budget is above, but hopefully with the mutual aids that we'll receive from helping out, that will help cover this as well as, like you said, as overall as a company, we are above for our budget.
It's just one thing to talk about on the electric side. If you remember in the SEPA report for this budget year, we're going to be about $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 ahead on SEPA. So that may help as well.
Plus, we got that surplus property money.
Budgeted amount.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Nichelle? Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The salary adjustments are approved. Thanks, Nichelle. Thanks for your work on this.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Next one, 7.5. This is consider the approval of the development plan for Franklin County Humane. Charmissa is going to handle this, and this we've talked about this several times, and this is kind of the final, I guess, design that we need to sign off on, consistent with what we'd already talked about before, is giving Humane Society some use of our property that saves them a considerable amount of money and doesn't impact our use of our property down the road. So Sharmista, you want to take it?
Sure. Good evening. This is a, like Mr. Cohen said, a follow-up to the November board meeting. The item I presented in November was the grading encroachments. They needed FPB approval in order to get their full grading permit. So that was taken care of. And now this is the development plan. It's ready to be finalized. And in order for it to be finalized, it gets routed for all the parties that are affected by this project. It requires our signature. So I just want to, I've got a screen share up. I want to go over the few pieces that I touched on in the November meeting. It's kind of finalized on paper here. So right here, this red line denotes our property line. The road widening, Mr. Mason, I think you asked about how long that road was. It's approximately 850 feet to get to their new entrance, about how long the road's going to be. The parts that affect us, or you can kind of see these little lightly dashed lines. That is going to be a 120-foot utility and access easement, which it already consists of a sewer easement and a drainage easement. So really, they're just cleaning it up. Instead of having multiple easements, they're just making it one large, wide easement. And we're going to be constructing a water line along this route inside of our property line, just to, if you've been back down that road, it's sinkholes on both sides, multiple utilities. So it just kind of cleans up the route and gets water to them more simply. And I think they're going to do a little bit of just minor tree removal, brush removal around this portion of the road for the widening. So that's all. That's really only changes that since the November meeting that they've made, or really it's not any changes. It's just finalized on paper. If the board does approve this development plan, there is a signature line as shown in the board package, and then this is not actually recorded in the deed room. It'll actually be followed up with a plat that kind of formalizes these easements. So that'll come through, and with the board's approval, if the general manager can sign off on that, then we don't have to necessarily bring it back before the board, because it's just formalizing what you're seeing today on these pages.
And it's the same amount of property, the amount of property that the Humane Society is going to be using of ours is the same amount we had talked about before. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, these two little dashed lines that encroach on our property, that's still the grading encroachment part, but everything else is basically the same. The road's already there on our property. They're just going to widen it. It's going to be 24 feet to this point. Then it'll narrow down to 20 feet going down towards the Humane Society. So correct. Yeah, the only actual true encroachment is a little bit of road widening and then those two grading encroachments.
And I just want to say for the record, Mr. Marcus, you had offered to be here tonight and discuss it with us. And since we had talked about it before, and this was pretty much just follow-up, I'd indicated to him I didn't think he necessarily needed to be here, that Sharmista was well aware of it and worked with him. So it was all right with everybody. I just said that Sharmista could handle it. Any questions on Sharmista? Yes.
I was just going to ask if she could increase the size of that shared document. Is that possible?
Sure. What part would you like me to zoom in on?
Well, is there a way to just make your shared side of the screen bigger?
On my screen, it's taking up the whole screen. I don't know, that might be a David Columbia question. For me, it's taking up my entire screen. I don't know how to make it bigger on the shared screen. I apologize. I'm a little challenged on these things, sharing. I don't know, David, are you able to make it look bigger for the audience? Okay. It should be in the board package as well. If you can maybe refer to that page. I don't have the whole board package with me. Kathy Poe may be able to tell you what page it's on. You might be able to look at it and zoom in a little bit larger on that page.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for anybody watching.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to kind of just pan through a little bit closer. So I'll just kind of pan and just kind of walk my way through the project. So this is into Flint Avenue. This is the existing gravel road that goes towards right now, the sewer pump station. This is the portion that goes towards the Frankfurt Plant Board property. They're going to be widening the road at this section to the 24 feet up to where it forks off. This little line right here is the proposed 8-inch water line to serve the Humane Society. I'll kind of pan down. This is where it'll narrow down to 20 feet, crosses it back into our property, out of our property, curves around. This is kind of where the fork off to the existing sanitary sewer pump station that's out there. And then kind of scroll down and then opening, then the entrance into the new animal shelter. So does that help a little bit? A little bit
Yes,
closer?
thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions for Sharmista? If not, do we have a motion to approve the development plan for the Humane Society?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Development plans approved.
Thank you.
Next one is informational items, General Manager. And Gary, we definitely want you to cover an update on the NREL and the City Commission and some of the discussions that have been going on and possibly some communication with them.
Sure. As you aware, City Commission passed the resolution, set a 100% renewable goal 2030 for the plant board. Since then, under direction of the board, staff approached NREL. The same time, I believe, close similar time, city management also approached NREL, National Renewable Lab. And the talk really is hope they are the federal agent, they have the most knowledge and capability in this area. Hopefully they can help us to have a roadmap to achieve that. So staff had a multiple meeting with them, and recently we had a few also continue talk of city management, try to work together to for this future goal. Preliminary, we don't know exactly yet. I think hopefully Scott from NREL going to send some kind of the first step proposal to city and us. Hopefully the talk is us and the city can join together, share the cost for the first step study. Jason, I mean, Mr. Limmer, he probably have more first-hand information in that part perspective. I think you probably have a conversation with Mayor, correct?
Yeah, I spoke to him before the last commission meeting where he was going to bring it up to the commission, but I don't have any information since that meeting.
And I know, Catherine, you had some thoughts too, didn't you?
Well, I can respond more specifically in the email, but we do have a draft communication to the mayor to share with the city commissioners. And I know, everybody's got a lot of issues they're juggling, and so I think it is good that we can remind them about our resolution. So I would probably add that. And just to let them know that we want to partner with them on this, that they're not dealing with an entity that's not going to be cooperative, and we have our own probably more general goals, but I think they're aligning.
And I know, we've got some other work going on right now in community solar. And the one thing NREL would do is give us an independent source to collect the data and kind of lay out then what next steps would be and I'd ask Gary to formalize, have a communication. I guess, is Kathy Lindsay on?
I'm here.
Do you want to read for everybody kind of what you drafted up? And this would be simply formalizing to the city commission that we're interested and would be willing to share with them the cost of NREL if they jointly agreed to do it. And we talked a little about this before, after the city passed their resolution, that it would make sense to work together on this. So Kathy, you want to read what you've got drafted?
Yeah, sure. In recent years, the Frankfurt Plant Board has been exploring opportunities to increase renewable energy resources within its energy portfolio. In 2018, the FPB board approved participation in a KYMEA agreement for 54 megawatts of solar generation, which will begin operation later this year. FPB is also currently studying options for a voluntary community solar program. This continuing endorsement for solar opportunities is now being extended to a partnership with the City of Frankfort, which has resolved to increase renewable energy goals in the future. As a result, the FPB board supports to engage with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory for a phase 1 study and approves splitting the cost of the study with the City of Frankfort.
And with this, and then two things this doesn't really address is, one, do we want to extend this to the city and formalize it? And two, do we want to put any kind of upper limit on total that we're willing to enter into in terms of cost sharing? And also define what phase 1 actually is. And maybe Gary, your event could talk about what phase 1, or Jason, what phase 1 actually would involve.
We are, everyone correct me, actually the discussion we had with the National Renewable Lab is they will submit a proposal to us, but based on the preliminary discussion, as we understand, the phase 1, a lot of it is a very high level, collect data, have understanding where we are. Basically, that's have the foundation for the future next level study.
And at that point, once that's collected, we're not committed. At that point, if we want to go further, they'd give us a new proposal and a new pricing. And so all we'd be committing to at this point is, if the city wants to partner, that we'd like to do phase 1, then any future commitments would be based on, that would come back to the board at that point, right?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to kind of flesh out a little bit more. The phase 1, we really saw 3 kind of support NREL could give us. One would be a data collection support, as we already discussed. Another one would be a sort of community engagement where we could have some level of stakeholder group comprised of different representatives from the community to be able to really start hashing out the different opportunities, the timelines. And then finally, there would be a potentially third service, which would be a scenario crafting, where they would look at different scenarios, how much it would cost, how quickly it could be implemented, and sort of long-term impacts on the community. And so those 2 last ones really are in the phase 2, as we've been talking about. And then the first data collection was really phase 1. So I think the phase 1 gets the process started. It gets everyone on the same page, so we're all using the same numbers. They can have a kind of frank, honest conversation about the baselines. And then from there, we could kind of evolve it in partnership with the city and frankly, other partners in the community who have a stake in this conversation.
Okay. Gary, you said with NREL, they had indicated your event that what they were thinking phase 1 total cost would be roughly in the ballpark. I know we're waiting on a more formal, but they were thinking in the realm of about what, 30,000 total?
That number being throughout in the first discussing, but okay. Since then, actually, NREL suppose, it's a holiday, everything's so busy, I understand, but they will send us some kind of proposal to us. So we sent an email to them last week. Hopefully they can work on that to get us the proposal. Soon we have it, we definitely will share with all of you, and also I hope that communication will be shared with the city manager and the city directly too.
Okay, but that's kind of the ballpark in terms of the money we're would be committing to if the board wants to send that communication. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I think that 30,000 was based on their proposal, their phase 1 proposal for the city of Louisville. Obviously, a much bigger right. With a lot more information. So once we get their proposal, we'll see kind of their scope of work. It may be less, or it may be similar to that, but it just depends on their scope of work and how deep they would be going in different areas. So I think the next step is to get that proposal.
All right, Steve, Mr. Mason. Steve, you're muted. Steve.
My phone rang.
Oh.
Excuse me. Just listen to the conversation, what Jason was saying. Phase one, if you do phase one, you definitely have to do phase two, because it's just data collection in the first one. You're not getting anything from that money. So can they give a hypothetical cost for phase two? Because that gives you a better picture of what you're getting into. Because phase one, you got to do phase two in the way we've defined them.
Yeah, and Mr. Mason, we talked about that. They gave us a bit of a ballpark, but the question is, I think the phase one is really the service that Interrel can provide as an outside entity to kind of give a trusted validation of sort of the common numbers for everyone to work from. Phase two, it really depends on how much we would like Interrel as an outside entity to kind of facilitate and work with the community on that. Obviously, they're based out of Colorado, so they're not here in our context, versus the city or some other entity facilitating those meetings. And I think that can have a very big drastic change on the cost of that phase two. So if we decide as a community to do it internally and facilitate those conversations, and then we kind of handle the second part ourselves and circle back on the third part with them, do some very targeted scenario building, then we have a much drastic difference in cost than if they just did the whole sweep of the scope of work. But you're right. The phase one really is just setting the groundwork. So that's not to go on and keep doing the work would sort of be fruitless, I think.
Well, Kathy Lindsay could handle phase two like in an afternoon, couldn't she?
Absolutely. Put me down for that.
John, did you have any questions, Catherine?
No, sir.
I mean, it seems like one thing we have to do is there's been a lot of discussions back and forth, a lot of public discussion and so forth. And I think the important thing, it seems like at this point, is for us in the city to kind of jointly agree on the data and what information we have. And then I think Steve makes a good point, and then see what the commitment is to proceed, because NREL, is not a vendor. They're not going to profit by what they recommend. They're going to give us the data, and then they're going to leave. And then it'd be up to us to look through the options and then see what's the best option for this community, cost, impact, service, how fast, and so forth. And the city seems very interested in it, and it would be good to proceed with them as a partner, and maybe even if the county wants to have some input, because I mean, this is a big issue. And we've got data, everybody's looked at the data, and NREL would give us kind of not only a fresh set of eyes, but somebody come in and say, this is what you're looking at. This is the information. How far along, Jason, do we know is Louisville in the process?
A couple months ago when we met with them, I think they were midway through phase one, but they hadn't got to the point of having a proposal for phase two. So obviously a much bigger context with a lot more stakeholders. So probably a much longer process is my guess.
But chances are Louisville will have phase one done. We'll be able to see where Louisville goes after their phase one before we'd have to cross that bridge.
I don't think I can speak to that. I'm not really sure their timeline.
Okay.
This is definitely a multi-year endeavor if we want to do it right and engage all the stakeholders and have everyone involved.
So, Gary, do you and Ben want to have any other comments, or Kathy?
We don't. Only update on the Cassie's letter is, as we know, KYMEA, the solar project actually already moved from 54 to 86.
Right.
So right now it's 86 megawatts. From beginning contract, Cassie is correct, it's a 54. But currently, based on new agreement, we already took over the whole project, which is total 86 megawatts.
So did Ashwood, then is confirmed, KYMEA's gonna be able to get that 32?
That part, yes. Actually, we don't really need to ask there. That's the option by agreement.
Right.
We have in KYMEA. KYMEA has 100% right when they choose to vote to take that. Yes. So it's not like a new negotiation, new agreement. It's already in agreement. It's just KYME need to access that option in a certain period of time. Yes, but which is the KYME already did.
So at this point, the question, I guess, is, does the board want to formally communicate to the city that we'd like to partner with them, get the final proposal, and we're certainly interested and open to a cost sharing arrangement if they want to do that with us? Do we have a motion? Do we want to proceed in that direction?
I'll make a motion for us to do that.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion's adopted. And Kathy, you can kind of refine that and get that to the mayor and the city manager and the city commission and let them know we're interested in proceeding if they want to proceed down this path.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Last item, we've already talked about number 9. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, we are ready. Do we need a closed session today?
Yes, that's what I was
Wait
going
a
to say.
minute.
We've already, hold it, Kathy.
Yeah. Miss Cuba.
Gary, we had something else.
Exactly.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Never mind. Thank you.
Yes, I will appreciate the opportunity. Cassie will be present that for me to forward our employee, line crews went to the Mayfield and also West Texas. So Cassie, go ahead, please. I think you have other video you want to play or about.
No, I'm just going to show some photos.
Okay, good.
The video was very long, and I know you'll have closed sessions, so we're just going to show some photos. But I did want to take the opportunity to recognize our employees who have spent time in Western Kentucky. That meant spending time around the holidays, away from their families. But I had the opportunity to talk to all of these guys who went. And they're all very happy to go. They all volunteered to go because this is the part that they really love about their jobs, is because it helps people. And this is helping people who really need it the most. So I'm David, Columbia, I want to share my screen because I've got some photos if I can get them. Hang on a second. Right. I want to say thank you to Michael Aldridge, who he supervised the crew in Princeton. And in addition to the Princeton crew is July Taylor, Russell Goins, and Eric Brown. Matt Quarles, he went to both Princeton and Mayfield, as did Stephen Riddle, Michael Colligan, and Michael Tracy. I'd also like to thank Jerry Onan, who supervised the crew who went to Mayfield, and along with Tyler Miller and Grant Smith. And these are some pictures. That was the crew that went to Princeton. Here they are getting ready to go. The guys are really good about sending us photos, things that they're working on. They did a lot of cleanup, picking up all the downed power lines and poles and transformers that had been knocked down. This is the crew in Princeton, the day that a crew from Cable 10 went down. I will say thank you to Zachary Hubbard, Crystal Simpson, Ariel Lyles, and myself. We went down to Princeton for the day. This is a crew that went to Mayfield. And some photos of, and really just getting an idea. Look at that. Our guys who are they're just really in the middle of it. And again, just appreciating the opportunity that they had to help people. What is just really a tragic time for them. In addition to, we also had a lot of our employees donated stuff that our around 10 crew took down to Earlington, which is one of the smaller areas, little towns in that area. Again, we got some good footage and did some interviews. We had about a 15-minute video that we put together for the Around 10 show. And we also had it on Facebook. There's our Around 10 crew. And then we did have access to those neighborhoods that were just devastated. And it was really a life-changing visit that we had there. And anybody who has been able to help has been great. It was a good opportunity for us to promote the opportunities for contributing through the Governor's Fund or just our local funds, and like the gift share that we had for the Capital City Cares. Gave us the opportunity to push those things and really get our community involved in things that were happening in other parts of the state, because we talk about being a municipal utility, and that we're neighbors serving neighbors, and this was our neighbors serving our neighbors in other parts of the state, and we were just really happy to be a part of it. So wanted to recognize all of those crews for going down there and spending that time. And I'm sure if we go back again, we'll get some more photos of things that they're doing, and maybe see progress there in Mayfield.
And Kathy, didn't you say? I mean, I know one time you said that you were there, and one time the crew was eating their lunch on the back of their truck, and then they went up and were actually helping families get their stuff out of their homes and organize things. And
that's right. They have, one thing they were doing as they were, doing their work as far as the electrical needs. If they had any downtime, we had people comment on Facebook. We had a lot of people from Princeton started following the FPB on social media because they knew we were posting pictures about things. So they started commenting about just really compliments on our guys and our crew about how helpful they were, and that even when they might have had some downtime to eat lunch, take a rest, they took the opportunity, because that was to help other families go through what was left that was just of their lives that was strewn across yards, and help them find things of value and set them aside. That's just one of the processes after a storm goes through. You have people help you go through all what's left and pick out what you can save. And so our guys were a part of that for a lot of families that were trying to pick up the pieces, literally.
Would you? I think the board would all agree. Can you formally communicate to that cruise from the board how appreciative we are of what they did, and thank them for the sacrifice they made?
Absolutely. We'll get something together for you all to sign and make sure that they get that.
Okay, good.
Sure.
Because it's tremendous, and this isn't the first time they've done this either.
Right.
Anytime there's a need, they've done this. So
it's great. We appreciate everything that they do, and everything that all our guys do here on a daily basis.
Yeah. Okay. Number 10, Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to request the chair to call closed session pursuant to carry 61-810-1C to discuss pending litigation regarding an OSHA matter.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? We're going into closed session. Mr. Columbia, you want to let us know when we're clear? Do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're back in open session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.